Hi, I'm Joe, and today I'm going to be putting together a new adventure site for you to visit in your magical, fantastical, or just medieval tabletop RPGs. It's going to be based on a monastery, and buckle up, I've been reading my brother Cadfael, and it has me just hyped. Herbalist monks got my creativity cranked to 11 right now, and that's where all of this is coming from. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. Let's get into it. Roll the intro! Alright, so here's what we're looking with to create this isolated monastery. I like the evocativeness of calling it the Windswept Monastery. Okay, so that's where we'll start. Orange is not showing up on this camera. Let's try blue. We're creating our Windswept Monastery. Now, just a quick list of the things I think we're going to need for this. A map. A map of the grounds, essentially. Okay, let's see, we got the map. Some NPCs. Okay, so I'm going to want some interesting NPCs for the characters to interact with when they get here. Since this is... These NPCs are going to tie into the culture of the place, and so at this NPC stage, this is where we're going to also try to give some sense of what the ranks are in the monastery, what the hierarchy is. Okay, so we have a monastic hierarchy. I want the description of the place, and I think what I'm going to do for this, because I want a map, and I don't know much about the layout of old-fashioned monasteries, essentially the backstory of this place is going to be this was a castle that was meant as a military building. The lord who owned it fell into the king's poor graces. The king reclaimed the land, and kind of to shift a little bit of blame away from himself, / make the whole thing look more altruistic than it really was, he gave the place over to this monastic order. It's a lot easier to find sample layouts of castles than of monasteries, so I think this is going to be a way to really play to the strengths of both what I've read before and what the internet's got to offer. So it's a big thing in these books that I've been reading, the Cadfael mysteries. It's a big thing that, you know, certain things happen at Vespers, certain things happen at the morning prayer, certain things happen during lessons, right? So you bring all those elements together and it creates a depth and realism to the place. So we'll have the monastic schedule. Big thing that I want in here, and part of why I love the Cadfael mysteries so much, is he's an herbalist, right? So he's creating all of these accurate medieval medical concoctions out of these herbs. So one thing the players are going to find at this monastery is herb-based potions and herbs themselves available for, you know, possibly not for sale per se, but for a donation to the faith. From there, I think the last thing I really want for this is just going to be some story hooks, right? I think 3 is going to be reasonable, just 3 little one-liners of something that could grow into a quest, right? It doesn't need to be huge. It could be something like, you know, so-and-so has a grudge against so-and-so, or just the little seeds that can get a story started, right? So that's going to be on here too. I think I'm going to want to make it a 2-pager, just based on everything we've got here, because if the first page is just going to be sample picture, title, description, map, and maybe some story hooks right there, that would leave the back page free. Done map, description, story hooks. So this could be herbs list here. Because that's probably, I've done a little bit of preliminary research into this. There's a lot of herbs that were used medicinally in medieval times. And then we'll do schedule, NPCs, ranks. Okay, we're probably going to tweak this layout a little bit, but I think this is a good place to start from, to start creating our art assets and really see what this thing's going to look like as it all comes together. So, with all of this laid out, I think that makes it time to head to my drawing software. Okay, so we're creating our art assets, and first step is the map. I want to have this layout set up before I draw the establishing shot. This is going to be loosely based on a castle layout I saw and kind of half remember in a video that Shadiversity put out. I kind of remember most of the broad strokes of how most actual medieval castles were laid out. And so to make a castle make sense as a monastery, we're still going to run with that backstory of the crown seized a castle from a minor lord and gifted it to the church to generate some goodwill. We have this main hall that's used as a dining hall and sanctuary with a kitchen behind it. The towers will be used for herb garden supplies, another tower for novice and layman quarters, and 2 other towers for guest quarters. The upstairs of the main building is going to have a library, as well as rooms for the prior, the elders, and the brothers. Also going to have a little tent coming off of the kitchen here to make extra room for cooking, and we'll have it marked where the herb garden is. I'm going to label all of these and fancy this up a bit, and here is the map. For our next resource, I made a dumb. That's on me. I didn't have my screen recording software on while I drew this. So here's the last finishing touches of what this monastery looks like from the outside. I really worked on lighting effects and a sense of scale and isolation to really set up this establishing shot of a windswept monastery just out, away from most civilization. Finally, I wanted something fancy that I could use as a watermark for the pages. It should look like religious iconography and be very decorative. I wanted some symbols around the disc, so I looked up some one-word chivalric values and sounded them out in Norse runes. These are not the Norse words for these concepts, just the English words sounded out in the Norse alphabet. And probably not even sounded out all that well, if I'm honest. If I remember right, the words I went with here were faith, charity, justice, sagacity, prudence, truth, diligence, and hope. There were more on the list that I found, but I only had 8 slots to fill, so sure, this will work. This black on orange marble effect that I did here, I did with just a single border on a separate page, just to create a less busy looking front page of this document. So there's all the art assets. Time to move on into putting all the pieces together. The monastery at White Hill sits on a small rise, overlooking walled fields of the surrounding countryside. It's a mostly treeless grazing land with a clear view of the distant coastline, and ocean-scented winds occasionally blow miles inland from the shore. The monastery was once a minor lord's castle, and when the lord fell from favor, the king gave the grounds over to the church for a cloister. Because of this checkered past, the grounds are laid out more defensively than what you would expect from most monasteries. The widely dispersed population of local farmers appreciate the monastery for holding services, maintaining birth, marriage, and death records, sheltering travelers, and for their herb lore. The monastery is renowned for their herbs, poultices, and medicines, and some travelers will pass by less capable monasteries in favor of a longer trip for the quality goods at White Hill. The grounds include a kitchen with an attached cook tent, a spacious garden, quarters for novices, the laymen stay here as well, brothers, elders, and the prior, a stable, guest quarters in the old gate towers, and a basic library of religious writings. The main hall is rearranged to be used as a sanctuary, dining hall, and even additional sleeping as the needs arise. Got a list here of some prominent NPCs. There's the prior, Onfroy Babin, leader of the monastery, Elder Giscard Bord, the librarian, Elder Treval Lachance, the novice master, Elder Eor Hall of White Hill. He's the cellarer, which is the master of domestic affairs, things like clothing, the kitchens, the supply, the treasury, etc. A lot of these are duties that would be done by different offices in a larger monastery, but in a facility this size, a lot of things sort of get conflated that way. There's Brother Aldrich Morel, who is the cantor, or choir leader, Brother Roch Sword, the herbalist, and Novice Ludo Perigord, who is the assistant to Brother Sword. I'll also have a note here that there are 5 more unnamed brothers, 10 unnamed novices, and 8 unnamed laymen. Laymans are people staying in the monastery long term, and because they're staying for a while, they're expected to aid in the chores. It might just be someone needing a place to stay, or it could be someone while they're considering taking the novice oath. A novice is someone who is sworn to a term of service of 2 years at a time, and in addition to their chores, there is specific intentional instruction in the faith, beyond just what you kind of gather by osmosis from living in the monastery. A brother is the lowest rank who has sworn themselves to the monastery for life. They may take on some leadership roles, but it's not demanded of them. elders or recognized leaders with specific areas of responsibility, and the prior is the leader of the monastery. I'm also going to throw on a schedule here of what different hours there are in the monastic day. I've got a quick table. I found some medieval remedies here, and I wasn't going to throw on every remedy, and I wasn't going to throw on every use for every remedy because it would become overwhelming, especially in an RPG game. So I took everything down to its top 1 or 2 applications, and I actually based the pricing on real-world pricing of today. So whatever it cost per ounce, 1 silver is about worth 10 cents of the cost per ounce. So the aloe costs about 30 cents an ounce today. The anise was about $1 an ounce. Basil was about $2.50 an ounce. So that's where all of those prices came from. As far as hooks, I've got that Brother Rochsword has a small budget from the giving, which he's allowed to use to buy herbs that are not already in his garden. So if you find anything that's not already for sale at this monastery, you can bring it in and sell it to the monastery. He'll take samples, cuttings if it's a plant that can grow from a cutting. He's really looking to expand the garden as often as possible. Another story hook is the Festival of Sir Roland of White. It's a major religious and community event that takes place in the fall. It involves games, feasts, and entertainment, and throughout the year they will be gathering supplies for this. So even if you come in the spring, they'll probably be willing to take something off your hands to help with the preparations for the festival. Additionally, some herb stores have been going missing. There's a concern that a novice or layman has been pilfering them to essentially get high. So there's something that you could investigate. I don't really have it beyond that. These are really just story hooks. It's not meant to give you the whole story. So there we have it. A windswept monastery for you and your players to come across in all of your magical travels. Hopefully it inspires some fantastic roleplay opportunities, and hopefully you had fun today. I know I did. Later. Thank you for watching. Please share the video with a friend or several friends, and let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see me draw in a future video. Later, y'all!